Greetings, it's Dr. Jimmy yet again on this lovely day, Tuesday, May 31st, 2016. And today, the t-shirt of the day, as we seem to have a tradition now, it might as well continue with it, is a Halloween Horror Nights t-shirt from Halloween Horror Nights 19, ripped from the silver screen. The Saul t-shirt, yes. That was one of the first times they did a t-shirt for an individual house. It was a rare thing to do in those days. Now it's quite common. You wouldn't be surprised if there were several t-shirts representing Halloween Horror Nights 26, perhaps an Exorcist t-shirt, a Texas Chainsaw t-shirt, a fill-in-the-blank IP t-shirt, we don't know what it is yet, shirts. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. But the Saul t-shirt is the one I'm wearing today. Now, that out of the way, this is of course my video on the history of Halloween Horror Nights. It's so dark in here, there you can see me now. Halloween Horror Nights 21. This is, I could also do some spotlighting. Hello! Oh, that's scary. Halloween Horror Nights 21, the 16th video in the history of the event. And last time I left off having finished all the streets and moving on to shows. And the show that I just started talking about was Death Drums. And to recap a little bit, Death Drums was a dance show that was presented in the streets right there at the heart of the park, located at the top of Hollywood Boulevard between Cafe La Bamba and Mel's Drive-In, or for Halloween Horror Nights, Mel's Die-In, between the Regent's Park area, which is a smoking area, and the entrance to Central Park, right there in the very centre of it all. And well, sometimes a big stage is put up, sometimes a big scare zone is put up, but that year there was nothing there except the show at various points during the evening. They would, of course, have people sit off to the side in the little operations people, get you off the street so that they could have a space to do the show. And then out of the Esoteric Gate, which is the studio gate in between Cafe La Bamba and the Pantages Theatre, where the monster makeup horror show is usually performed. Coming out of that gate where the Mardi Gras floats come out at them for the Mardi Gras parade for that other event at a different time of year. The same gate though, came these great big drum sets about 2 stories tall with drum sets above, and of course the drummers were on the drum sets, and these wheeled out along with a procession of strange dark hooded figures in robes like monks going single file, like in that scene. Remember that scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, you know, Pie Jesu Domine Dona Eis Requiem. Yes, that scene, if you remember that, marching along. They didn't do that though, they just marched along in single file to the music of AC/DC's Hell's Bells. A guitar riff, very classic guitar riff, and the tolling of a bell as they marched out. And there were 3 different sets, 3 different versions of Death Drums, and throughout the evening they performed different ones. They were known as Pop, Rock, and Zombie. Not Pop Rocks and Zombie. Pop Rocks, of course, is a carbonated candy popular in the 70s, where a rather bizarre urban legend came up that a little boy named Mikey, you might have seen him in a Life cereal commercial, he likes it, hey Mikey. He won't like it, he hates everything. Yes, little Mikey, according to the story, took his Pop Rocks and put them and swallowed them down, washing them down with a fizzy drink, probably Coca-Cola or something. RC Cola, yes, because he was a unicorn. Someone will get that joke. If Basilak watches this stuff, he'd get that and appreciate the unicorn RC Cola reference. But anyway, I'm petting a cat now, by the way. She's right over here, just off camera. Licking my elbow, weird cat. But getting back to the story though, allegedly the combination of carbonation and the Pop Rocks in the drink caused it to explode inside of him, killing him instantly in horrible grisly death. Of course, the punchline, Mikey lost his life. Haha. Truth is, didn't happen. You can't kill yourself by eating Pop Rocks and carbonated beverages at the same time. But you might belch a lot, like fizzy lifting drinks. You have to belch, so you go up to the ceiling fan and get chopped up, yes? But it didn't happen. I'm sure the kid is still alive. Of course, he wouldn't be a kid anymore. He'd be in his 40s already now, today. But, of course, like a lot of child actors, famous when he's 7, now no one knows who the fuck he is. But that's the story. But what the hell am I talking about? Pop rock. Oh, Pop Rock and Zombie, yes. 2 separate things. Pop, Rock, Zombie. 3 different shows, yes. And all of them started the same way, though, with Hell's Bells. But once they got to the middle, they took their robes and hoods off and then revealed their outfits for that particular performance. And they were sexy dancers, both male and female sexy dancers, the girls and boys in some skimpy outfits depending on which show they were doing. And there were some of the better dancers that have appeared at Universal over the years. One of the lead female dancers was Erin Klein, who of course in subsequent years appeared in many Bill and Ted performances and was quite noticeable in Bill and Ted. Very hot, sexy, got well endowed, I should say, but she's talented also. And this was really obvious last year when she had a star turn, reinventing the character of Chance. Her performance as Chance last year was hugely popular, remarkable, brilliant. It was the highlight in some ways of the Carnage Returns show. Not that Jack wasn't bad, of course he was excellent, but to see her and of course she was also featured in the television commercial they shot in Budapest for that show last year. But this was the first time I think I really noticed her was in Death Drums. So this was rather interesting how she started out, and now she's doing quite well. And you know, she was so popular last year, I wouldn't be surprised if they use her again someday. I don't know when, but you know, I think there's a good chance that Chance will come back someday. I hope so, because she was so thrilling last year. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. 2015 is a long ways away from 2011. Going back to Death Drums, other dancers that were notable on the male side of it was little Michael Navarro, who of course has appeared the year before as Jacob in Bill and Ted, the werewolf from Twilight. It was Jacob the previous year. He also has quite been noticed by many fans who go to Universal all the time and see all the shows all the time, some of those crazy bastards. For example, playing the Wolfman in the Beetlejuice review, and also has appeared, just last year, he was one of Jack's Maniacs, of course. Another very notable male dancer, Jason Tibbs, who played the Situation in that Bill and Ted show a couple of years before that, and more recently has played Superman when he ripped the S emblem because, you know, drunk Superman must destroy everything. More recently, and last year I think played Mr. Grey, 50 Shades of Grey, also ripping his clothes off. Seems to be something they make him do whenever he's in Bill and Ted, because he's got something nice under his clothes to show everybody, so they always make him rip his clothes off. And they used him to good effect in Death Drums also. So we had some of the most talented and simultaneously sexy dancers performing in these sets. There were 3 sets, as I said. Pop, interesting they called it pop. It was really dance music. I mean, pop is such a generic term, and we often think of, you know, light popular music. This was dance music. I don't know enough about dance music nowadays. There's so many different categories. Back in my day, it was called disco. But now there's high energy, and there's dubstep, and there's, I don't know what they call it all, and all kind of sounds. It's all basically music with a beat that you can dance to in a discotheque or a dance club. Basically, no matter what you call it, it's what it is. It's dancing music, and that's what they did. Remixes of different things. The music's hard to identify. There's some lunatics nice lunatic, and I sometimes do it myself, who try to identify every last bit of music ever played at Horror Nights, and there's threads devoted to this on some of the forums like Horror Night Nightmares. What was that tune? Can someone identify that one? And sometimes they go in the park and try to identify every bit of music in the inside the houses and the scare zones everywhere, using, and all the Bill and Ted songs, using the Shazam app on their phones. And oh, now we can figure it out. Well, it was difficult to do that with Death Drums because Shazam, I just turned to Captain Marvel. No, not that kind of Shazam. Shazam on the phone, the application, can only identify if it's exactly the same as the track that's been recorded. If there's any noise that interferes with it, like crowd noises, cheering, clapping, or the drums they used in Death Drum, because those were live drums, ba-bam, ba-bam, ba, during the so that was playing over the recorded track. Therefore, Shazam wouldn't pick it up because it wouldn't identify it, because there's different drum beats in it, so they wouldn't identify it. So they had a harder time identifying that music. I have been able very carefully to identify at least 2 tracks that were part of the pop set, during a little bit when the drums weren't beating and the crowd was quiet enough. Hello Ibiza by a Kevin Viviano remix by Roscoe was one of the tracks, and the other is Where Them Girls At by the Afrojack remix, David Guetta and Nicki Minaj. Those I can identify, and I'm sure there was more music that I can't identify, but it's dance music. So that's what they dance to in pop. And their costumes under the black robes looked a lot like the costumes that the Minions of Envy had over in 7. Sort of green, lot of green lighting for this set too. Green seemed to be the colour for the pop set, but black and green sort of waistcoat or vest, whatever you want to call them, over the bare chest of the males, and the sort of bikini bra tops of the females as they danced around to the pop music. They also had sort of lightsaber like light sticks, and they had duels with that, banging them to the beat of the drums, while the drummers, big drummers of course, are pounding on their drums in the big sound sets, the big drum sets that are set up while they dance about. And sometimes they'd spell out words with the light sticks like sexy and party. And so that's what pop was like. It was fun, but probably the least interesting for me of the 3 sets. The second set was actually my favorite. It's called Rock, and they had harder, more heavy metal type music remixed for dance, but still that sort of rock. They segued directly, and although I couldn't Shazam any of it, I know the music already. So they segued directly from Hell's Bells into Back in Black by AC/DC, obviously remixed. Then going into a version of Living Dead Girl by Rob Zombie, and I think the last bit of that was Burning Down the House, but not Talking Heads version, but this was a cover version of Burning Down the House by, I think they're called The Used, I think was the name of the band, which had appeared in the motion picture soundtrack of Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen. And so that was the music for Rock, and it was the sexiest of all of them, because they didn't have any covering up little vests. No, it was all bare exposed flesh. The girls had their little bikini tops only, and the rest of them was exposed. The men were shirtless, and they were quite hot when they did the dancing. They got a little more physical with each other, holding each other, spinning the girls overhead. You know, it was quite exciting to see all this going on, and also took up like rubbish cans and started banging them about to the dance beat. So that was the sexiest number of the 3. The last one wasn't very sexy at all because they were zombies, you know, with the zombie makeup and covered up with more clothes because they're supposed to actually be zombies. And of course the main piece of music used for this was Thriller by Michael Jackson. What else? A remix of Thriller. But there was also another bit of music I identified at the beginning of it, a track called UFO, K-Hole, from Jack Beats album, whatever the hell that is. But that was the music that was used for the zombie number, which is pretty much what you'd expect, you know, reenacting Thriller to a certain effect on the street. So that was, I hear a telephone, but I'm not going to bother with it, damn them. And so that was Death Drums pretty much. So we can move on to the next show. And the next show was Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure. It was the 20th performance of Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure since the show started in '92. Therefore, the 20th anniversary performance, once again in the Fear Factor Auditorium. All right, and that was also the first year that Michael Aiello was not the actual director and writer of the show. Patrick Breard, I believe, was his first year. And they changed things up a bit because it started out at the they had a sort of a script, really, of an actual storyline that was a bit different. It wasn't the supervillain from popular culture, you know, tries to destroy the world or conquer Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted gather all sorts of pop culture figures, and then he gathers evil ones and they have a battle. It wasn't that. There was no Dr. Evil. There was no Mr. Burns or any of the other usual villains. This time the antagonist, another vocabulary word for you, was an alien named Eugene. Apparently, some galactic council decided Bill and Ted were a threat to universal harmony, and they have to be destroyed for the sake of all intergalactic life or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. Some kind of bollocks like that. And so they sent Eugene to deal with it, and he was basically very much similar to the little character of the Great Gazoo. Remember the Great Gazoo? If you watch old reruns of the Flintstones, or you're really old fuck and you actually saw the Flintstones when they were on live on primetime television in the early 1960s, but otherwise. Little green alien fellow with a helmet and antennae. This was a full-sized, but still a green-skinned alien, sort of pudgy with a helmet and antennae. Looked just like that, but his name was Eugene, not Gazoo. So that was the villain there. The whole thing was set at where it all began on Bill and Ted, the convenience store where Bill and Ted met Rufus all those years ago, except it wasn't a Circle K anymore because of copyright. they couldn't. There's a cat head. I see it. Definitely see a cat head right there. Ew, little Bob cameo. All right. So lurking behind me. But anyway, talking about they changed it. It wasn't Circle K. It was more of a sort of a square with the two numbers. What two numbers? What was the number 6 and the number 9? You mean 69, dude? Yeah, exactly. It was a 69 dude Circle K for some reason. And the start of the show, they have the usual intro of some sort where they tell you not to take any photos or videos, and that there will be loud noises and bad language. And to do that, they had a parody of the King's Speech. And so King George V, who's been dead for fucking decades, but anyway, King George, not the 5th, King George VI, got my Georges crossed. King George V was his father. This is King George VI, who was originally Prince Albert, but he became, that was his actual given name. His first name was actually Albert. They called him Bertie, but he was a Duke of York. He became king when his brother had to quit being king because his brother, you know, married an American divorcee. But you want just in British history, go watch a damn movie, A King's Speech. Problem with Bertie is that he had a terrible stammer, stutter. He couldn't get words out, because especially when he's stressed and then trying to give an important speech about Nazis or something. He can't do that very easily, so he had to go see a speech therapist. Very nice movie, very well done. Colin Firth. Helena Bonham Carter as Her Majesty, his wife, who became, of course, the Queen Mum. But anyway, George, who's also dead now too, by the way. She'd be 120 years old if she hadn't. But going back to it, King's Speech. So out comes His Majesty. And he's trying to read a speech to tell you all the rules for the show, and he can't get the words out. And so along comes Mr. Chow. Is that his name, Mr. Chow? Mr. Chow from the Hangover movies. and he, because they had a second Hangover movie that year, and he comes out and makes him shut up, and then he proceeds to give it in a more rowdy Mr. Chow version, and he tells you know there's going to be explosions that kill old people and scare children and kill old people. I love that line, and telling people basically to fuck off if they don't like it, pretty much. Very funny. So that was how they started it, and then they proceeded, of course, with the show, which featured all sorts of strange characters encountering each other at this convenience store, while Bill and Ted have to deal with the fact that an alien wants to destroy them, because he must destroy Bill and Ted's, and he always calls them Bill and Ted's, not Bill and Ted. Right. So some of the people that they encounter include the Donkey Punch Girls. No, I'm sorry, that was a different movie. Not the Sucker Punch Girls. They encountered Papa Smurf, who was like smoking, and he was high out of his mind with the Green Hornet. Seth Rogen. They were getting totally bombed out of their mind. Smurfette shows up looking for, and Smurfette is hot as hell. They had a little person play Papa Smurf, except near the end they had Jeremy take his place one night. So you had a 6-foot Papa Smurf, which was hysterically funny, because there's a line when Smurfette comes out later, very sexy Smurfette, saying he's 3 apples high. Well, he's more like 6.5 apples high, or more than that. I'm already running out of time, so I'll have to continue the show in part 17.